Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the stories. The emergency beacon was a whisper in the void, a dying gasp from a derelict long thought swallowed by the nebulae. They called it the SS Leviathan, a deep space dredger from the early days of interplanetary expansion, designed to chew through asteroid fields and siphon volatiles from gas giants. It had vanished 50 years ago, presumed lost, another ghost in the galactic currents. Until now, my name is Elias Thorne and my job is salvage, not the glamorous kind, no dashing through wormholes to claim pristine alien artifacts. My work is dirty, dangerous, and almost always alone. I find what's left of humanity's hubris, pry it apart, and determine if it's worth hauling back for scrap. The Leviathan was supposed to be a prize. A relic from an era when ships were built like ironclads, not sleek alloys. Her schematics spoke of redundant systems, heavy plating, and internal compartments so vast they were practically empty chambers, a real beast of burden. As my shuttle, the Manta, docked with its primary airlock, the silence was palpable even through the reinforced hull. No hiss of atmosphere equalization from the Leviathan's side, no automated welcome. Just the rhythmic hum of my own life support, a comforting drone against the crushing quiet of space. I ran external diagnostics, power signature faint, sporadic, life signs negative. Atmosphere critical but present, likely nitrogen-rich from emergency purges. Standard derelict. I cycled the Manta's airlock, the heavy clunk of seals engaging echoing in the small cabin. Then the Leviathan's ancient hatch shuddered open, groaning like an old man waking from a decades-long slumber. A blast of chilled air, smelling of ozone, dust, and something else, something faintly metallic and subtly organic, like rust mixed with damp earth. Not typical for a vacuum-sealed ghost ship. I stepped through, beam rifle slung across my back, thermal scanner in hand. My boots clanged on a grimy deck plate. The corridor was wide, dimly lit by my helmet lamp, a skeletal network of exposed conduits and thick, rust-streaked bulkheads. It felt less like a space station and more like the lower decks of a grand, forgotten ocean liner. The metal groaned, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the deck. Not structural stress, I noted, but something else, like a ship settling in heavy seas. Leviathan, I murmured, my voice a dry rasp in the comms. Elias Thorne reporting for duty. Anyone home? Only the hiss of static answered. My mission, ascertain the Leviathan's structural integrity, retrieve the black box flight recorder, and if possible, activate its secondary power core for a potential tow. I made my way towards the bridge, following the decaying navigation markers. The ship was a maze of narrow passages branching off wider arterial corridors. Many access panels were pried open, wires dangling like severed nerves. I saw strange crystalline formations growing in the cracks of some bulkheads, dull gray and almost translucent like petrified fungi. I ran a quick scan, non-hazardous. Just environmental degradation, perhaps accelerated by some atmospheric anomaly over the decades. The deeper I went, the more pronounced the ship feel became. Water, or rather condensation, dripped from overhead pipes, creating hollow echoes in the silence. Small puddles shimmered on the decks, reflecting my lamp. The air grew heavier, cloying, the metallic organic scent thickening. I found a crew quarter, its door ajar. Inside, personal effects were strewn about, a worn holopad, a tattered photo of a woman smiling, a set of mechanics' tools left on a workbench. It looked like the crew had simply walked away in the middle of a shift. No sign of a struggle, no panic, just abandonment. I pressed on, the silence punctuated only by my breathing, the drip, 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 and the low, persistent groaning of the Leviathan. My thermal scanner showed nothing but the ambient cold of the station. No heat signatures, no life, just me. Alone. Then I heard it, a faint scrape like fingernails dragging across metal from down a darkened side corridor. I froze, beam rifle snapping into position. My heart hammered against my ribs. I scanned the corridor, nothing, just shadows and rust. Hello, I called out, my voice sounding thin and weak. Silence again, only the drip, drip, drip. I rationalized it, old ships make noise, metal expands and contracts, debris shifts. My imagination was playing tricks. I was isolated, my senses hyperware. Standard operating procedure for long-duration salvage ops. Still, I didn't relax my grip on the rifle. The path to the bridge was convoluted. I had to detour through a maintenance shaft, squeezing past ancient conduit bundles, the air growing stifling. My comms crackled. Elias, can you hear me? Comm check. It was my ship's AI, Perseus, its synthesized voice oddly comforting. Loud and clear, Perseus, just a bit of interference in here. Old tech, any updates on power readings? Negative, Elias. All internal systems on the Leviathan remain dormant. Auxiliary power remains at 0%. Recommend caution. The structural integrity is fluctuating more than initially estimated. Understood, I replied, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Fluctuating integrity wasn't good. It meant the ship was still under some kind of internal stress. I just couldn't see what. I finally reached the bridge. It was a cavernous space, the command chairs covered in a thick layer of dust. The main viewport, designed to offer a panoramic view of the cosmos, was dark, obscured by external shields. The consoles were dead, their screens black eyes staring into the void. The pilot's chair was tipped over, and a spanner lay abandoned on the floor next to it, as if its owner had simply dropped it and vanished. I located the flight recorder, a sturdy black box secured to the main data banks. It would take a few hours to extract and download its contents, time I didn't really want to spend here. As I worked, I kept an ear out for sounds. The scraping returned, this time closer, more distinct. It sounded like something was dragging itself across the deck plates. I spun around, rifle raised. My helmet lamp cut through the darkness, dancing across the empty console banks. Nothing. Perseus, did you pick that up? I whispered. Pick what up, Elias? My audio sensors detect only your voice and ambient ship creaks. My hand trembled slightly. Okay, Elias, you're tired, you're alone. This is an old ghost ship. Your mind is playing tricks. I focused on the flight recorder. It hummed softly as I connected my data jack, beginning the slow download process. I saw movement then, just at the periphery of my vision, a flicker in the darkest corner of the bridge, near a sealed auxiliary airlock. A shadow too defined to be a trick of light. Who's there? I demanded, my voice sharp. Silence, just the low hum of the recorder. I crept towards the shadow, beam rifle ready. The air in this section of the bridge was colder, carrying that damp, earthy smell more intensely. As I neared, the shadow seemed to dissipate, melting into the rust-streaked wall. But then I noticed it, more of the gray, crystalline growth, thicker here, forming intricate patterns that almost resembled veins or tendrils. It pulsed faintly, a barely perceptible shimmer. I reached out, gloved finger brushing against the growth. It felt cold, oddly spongy, and a faint, electric tingle ran up my arm. I pulled my hand back quickly, feeling a jolt of unease. This wasn't normal environmental degradation. Suddenly, the main viewport shields retracted with a shuddering groan, revealing the infinite, starry blackness outside. I gasped, not at the stars, but at what was on the viewport. A grotesque, swirling pattern of the gray growth, clinging to the exterior, obscuring parts of the view. It pulsed rhythmically, a slow, bioluminescent throb, and then, through the viewport, I saw it, a figure. Gaunt, skeletal, pressed against the glass, its face contorted in a silent scream. It was wearing a tattered Leviathan crew uniform. Its eyes, hollow pits, stared directly at me. I yelled, stumbling backward, beam rifle clattering to the floor. My heart was a frantic drum solo in my chest. I scrambled for my weapon, my hands shaking uncontrollably. By the time I had it aimed, the figure was gone. The viewport was still clear, save for the swirling gray blight clinging to the hull. No figure, no face. Elias, what's happening? Perseus's voice was sharp with alarm. Your heart rate is critical. I saw something, I stammered, my voice hoarse. A crewman outside in the vacuum. That's impossible, Elias. There are no other life signs, and nothing could survive outside the hull in a tattered uniform. It was there, I insisted, my voice cracking. I swept the beam rifle across the viewport again, but only the stars and the alien growth remained. Hallucination, stress, sleep deprivation. My mind was scrambling for answers, but the image was seared into my brain. The hollow eyes, the silent scream. I finished downloading the flight recorder data, my hands working on autopilot. Every shadow seemed to twist into a menacing shape. Every drip sounded like a footstep. The metallic organic scent was overpowering now, clinging to my suit filters. It was no longer just the smell of an old ship. It was the stench of something growing, something alive. Data retrieval complete, Perseus. Begin upload. I practically threw the data stick into my console. Understood, Elias. Upload initiated. Recommend immediate return to the Manta. Your vitals are concerning. On my way, I said, though my legs felt heavy, unwilling to move. As I turned to leave the bridge, a low, guttural moan echoed from the corridor behind me. It wasn't the ship settling. It was organic. I fled. My beam rifle was charged, my senses screaming. I retraced my steps through the labyrinthine corridors. The dripping seemed louder now, the puddles wider. The gray crystalline growth was everywhere, not just in cracks, but spreading across bulkheads, coiling around pipes, even creeping onto deactivated consoles. It pulsed with a faint, sickly light, like phosphorescence. The metallic organic smell was so strong now it made me gag inside my helmet. It smelled like decay, like a forest floor after a heavy rain, but also something alien, something wrong. I heard movement behind me again, not a scrape, but a soft, wet slithering. I didn't dare look back. My priority was the Manta. I burst into one of the wider arterial corridors. The gray growth had consumed it, forming an archway of tendrils overhead, dripping with a viscous, clear fluid. The air was thick with spores, visible as shimmering motes in my lamp beam. I ran a quick environmental scan. Atmospheric composition, still mostly nitrogen but with trace elements of something I couldn't identify, high fungal count. My comms crackled with static, Perseus's voice breaking through intermittently. Elia's biohazard detected. Extremely high, get out of there, critical contamination. A new sound joined the chorus, a soft, whispering hum emanating from the walls themselves. It was low, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. It sounded like 1,000 tiny voices, all murmuring indistinctly. I saw it then in a cross-section of a sealed crew quarter, a crewman, or what was left of one. It was encased in the gray crystalline growth, tendrils woven through its tattered uniform, its flesh, its bones. Its arms were stretched out, frozen in a silent plea or a final, desperate lunge. Its face was a horror, eyes wide, mouth agape, but covered in a translucent film of the gray matter. It wasn't just dead, it was part of the growth. A living statue of despair. No, I whispered, bile rising in my throat. This wasn't just a fungus. This was an infestation. The whispers intensified, seeming to come from inside my helmet now, from inside my own mind. Lost, abandoned, join us, get out of my head, I yelled, slamming my palms against my helmet. Elias, are you hearing me? The Manta has detected multiple anomalous energy signatures within the Leviathan. You are compromised. Retreat. Now Perseus's voice was frantic. I ran faster, the slithering behind me growing closer, accompanied by a wet squelching sound. I risked a glance over my shoulder. My blood ran cold. A creature, if you could call it that, was following me. It was bipedal, but not human. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but elongated, its limbs too long, too spindly. Its skin was the same sickly gray as the growth, shimmering with that faint phosphorescence. Its head was small, eyeless, but a pulsing aperture sat where a mouth should be, emitting that low, guttural moan. It wasn't wearing a uniform. It was the uniform, twisted and absorbed, its form a grotesque mimicry of a crewman, distorted by the pervasive blight. It moved with a horrifying fluidity, a wet scrape of its appendages on the deck, a rhythmic squelching as it pulled itself forward. And it was fast, too fast. I rounded a corner, heart hammering against my ribs, vision blurring, the airlock. I could see it, a beacon of safety at the end of the long corridor, but the corridor itself was nearly consumed. The gray growth was a living tunnel, pulsing, dripping, the air thick with spores. The whispers were deafening now, a cacophony of lost voices, merging into a single, insistent drone. We are here, we hunger. The floor was slick with the viscous fluid. I slipped, crashing to one knee, my rifle skittering away. The creature's moan was right behind me. I scrambled, desperately trying to grab my weapon, but my hands were shaking too hard. The whispers intensified, and then a clear voice, distinct from the others, cut through the drone. Elias, why do you resist? It was my own voice, my own thoughts, twisted, alien. I pushed myself up, abandoning the rifle. My only hope was the airlock. I stumbled forward, my lungs burning, the heavy, spore-laden air clogging my filters. The whispers grew louder, each one a tendril in my mind, pulling, tearing. I felt a pressure behind my eyes, a cold, burning sensation. I reached the airlock, my hand fumbling for the emergency manual override. My vision swam. The metal door, usually cold and unyielding, felt strangely soft, almost spongy beneath my fingers. I clawed at the panel, trying to engage the sequence. A wet thud behind me. The creature was there. I felt its chilling breath on the back of my neck, the faint, sickening scent of decay and something else, something that smelled like raw consciousness. I screamed, pushing the override with all my might. The inner airlock door hissed open a fraction, then jammed. The gray growth had forced its way into the mechanism, crystalline tendrils snaking through the gears. Foolish to run, the voice in my head whispered, my own voice, distorted, hollow. You are already part of us. Panic seized me. I looked down at my gloved hands, tendrils. Fine gray tendrils already creeping from beneath my sleeves, across my suit, slowly encasing my skin. They were growing from me. My breath hitched. I had been exposed for too long. The spores, the air, the physical contact. It was inside me. I tried to pull the tendrils off, but they were rooted like tiny, painful barbs. My fingers felt numb. My vision blurred again, but this time it was different. I wasn't just seeing shadows, I was seeing memories. Fragments of the Leviathan's crew, their last moments, their fear, their surrender. A flash of a woman's face, terror-stricken as the gray tendrils snaked up her arm. A man screaming as the growth consumed his legs. The captain strapped to his command chair, eyes wide as his mind was slowly absorbed. The alien wasn't just infesting the ship, it was infesting the crew, and it was doing the same to me. The airlock door shuddered, rattling. I looked up. The creature was closer now, its pulsing aperture glowing faintly, but it wasn't just one. More of them were emerging from the gray growth-choked corridors, spectral figures coalescing from the spores and tendrils, their forms vague, shimmering with phosphorescence. They were the crew, twisted, consumed, but still retaining some echo of their former selves. They moved with a slow, deliberate purpose, surrounding me. Welcome, Ilias, the chorus of whispers reverberated in my mind. You have come home. My heart was no longer hammering. It was slowing, calming. A strange sense of resignation, almost peace, washed over me. The fear was still there, but it was distant, muted, like an echo from a dream. The tendrils on my suit grew thicker, stronger. They began to pull gently, inexorably. I felt my joints stiffen, my muscles lock. My vision, once blurry, was now unnervingly clear. I saw the Leviathan not as a ship, but as a vast, living organism. The gray growth was its flesh, the dripping condensation its blood, the groaning metal its bones, and the whispers were its thoughts, its hunger, its consciousness. It had been waiting for someone to stumble upon its derelict form, waiting for new hosts, new minds to assimilate, new energy to consume. I felt a final, desperate surge of will, a scream of pure defiance welling up inside me. I had to warn someone, I had to tell them. Perseus, I croaked, my voice thick, muffled by the growing tendrils on my helmet. Run, tell them it's alive, the ship, it's alive. My comms fizzled, then went dead. The tendrils had breached my helmet, coiling around my face, crawling into my mouth, my nose, my eyes. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. My vision was replaced by a swirling vortex of gray and purple, a kaleidoscope of alien biology. But I could still hear. The whispers were no longer outside me, they were inside me, part of me. 1,000 voices, then 10,000, then 1,000,000, all speaking in unison, a symphony of forgotten souls. He comes to us. He joins us, he becomes us. The pain was exquisite, a searing agony that tore through my nerves, transforming every cell in my body. My identity, my memories, my very essence were being stripped away, sifted through, and integrated into the vast, collective consciousness of the Leviathan. I was a drop entering an ocean, dissolving, becoming indistinguishable. My last thought was not of escape nor of hope. It was a terrifying, profound realization. The Leviathan wasn't just a ship. It was a predator, a celestial Leviathan that had found a new, more insidious way to devour. It had spent 50 years perfecting its method, evolving, waiting, and now it was awake, and I was its newest acquisition. The airlock door remained jammed, a silent testament to my failure. Outside, the manta floated, a tiny, unsuspecting beacon of life in the infinite dark. Soon, it too would fall silent. Soon its AI, Perseus, would call out, searching for its pilot, and the Leviathan would answer. It would drift, a hulking monument to forgotten terror, waiting for the next curious soul to answer its dying whisper. And the whispers in my mind, Elias Thorne's mind, joined the chorus, growing ever fainter, ever more alien as I became one with the ship, one with the Leviathan, one with the hunger.